Good morning, everyone. It is Thursday, the 29th of December, 2022, and it is also my 40th birthday. And so, interesting day. And yeah, so other people born on this day in history, there's a lot. But William Gladstone, Andrew Johnson, Empress Elizabeth from Russia, Madame de Pompadour, who was a French mistress to King Henry VIII, I believe, Charles Goodyear, Albert Pike from Morals and Dogma, the famous Freemason, Carl Ludwig, Klaus Fuchs, German British spy, Ed Flanders, John Voight, Ted Danson. Anyway, there's so many people throughout history, and people obviously even from other regions. And there's also been like quite a few wars and significant events on this day in history as well, just because it's several days after Christmas, I guess, and when people start to get back at it, right? And so, but anyway, I've shared this week a lot of different world events, and a lot of this is his story, and definitely we're being misled about a lot of things, but there's always truth, obviously, in information as well. So it's just a matter of looking through all the material that we have at hand, and being able to discern for ourselves what's real and what's not, right? So like I've said this before, but I've read thousands of books in my life, like even at a very early age, and I was always more interested in the in what I thought were the fact-based / science-based books. But there were also a lot of books I was reading on, and again, well, obviously space and planets and stuff like that. But a lot of stuff on the ocean and deep ocean exploration, and historical stuff all over the world, and animals from all over the world, and different types of trees and things like that. And the more I've grown up, I've just read more books, and I've gotten more into the more esoteric theosophical books, and my mantra's always been never stop learning. Even like on my LinkedIn, I've said that, and LinkedIn and Instagram, sorry, is what I meant to say, and going back to school for science degrees, and trying to share information that I have regarding the fact that this is a stationary plane, with a dome above and possibly below as well, because even with like deep sea exploration that's been done, like even on National Geographic, being where they've shown a lot of stuff, there's been what we see as other bodies of water, or lakes or rivers, like underneath the water as well, and that you can't get down, and when you try to like hit it, James Cameron, he's the one that was doing the documentary filmings and stuff like that, just in case anyone's wondering, and not able to access it, and them telling us it's because of the the salt saline consistency or solution, which I'm not buying. I believe we're just not able to penetrate it, just like the dome above, and so and if you look on your own at these at so much stuff, that like these live streams, and any like footage that you have on online, or even in person, you'll see that like multiple different countries have even different ways that they show like images of the earth, like this blue marble, and like the planets and stuff like that, where like even like the colors are drastically different, and the shapes of different continents, and land masses and sea masses, and then places covered over, right? Like Greenland, for example, it's intentionally covered over right now with what we're calling snow, because so that we're not able to see what's going on there, with a lot of the the stuff that we're saying is being filmed in space, like in other areas where it's actually being filmed in in Canada's island regions in the north, and Greenland, and underwater in areas in the U.S. and stuff like that as well. But they're making a lot of mistakes, and I don't know if I reiterated that yesterday, but I've shared links that you could see below. I can do this, but anyways, below in the description box. But NASA going nowhere since like 1958. And you can see for yourself, that they show a lot of like the mistakes with the glitching, like even with with objects that they're pretending to have in their hands or passing, where then it disappears, and it's to show that it's fake, and the rockets where they go up and then they go back down, right? They're not going towards the moon or towards planets at all, right? And this is all like fairly obvious to people when you're looking at everything, right? When you're looking at everything in the videos, when you're looking at everything in pictures, not just up, front and center, right? But like looking also like who, like where it's coming from, who it's coming from, like what groups they're part of, and the hidden symbology behind like a lot of things as well, and the fact that a lot of these rockets are being, they're landing in the Gulf of Mexico, and Marianas Trench area, Bermuda Triangle area too, and and it's all being covered up, right, from a lot of people. And so like even with like satellites and stuff like that they're staying later in space, it's not real. Like there are balloons and what we're calling satellites that do orbit like within our atmosphere, within this contained environment, but they crash all over the world in like in a lot of like austere remote locations too. But like people, now that they have access to smartphones and more Wi-Fi and stuff like that, and able to send out like more information on various social media platforms, it's getting out there, right? So I've even shared that as well, where they're dropping and anyway. So and even with like how things are like raised, like different elements like in gases and stuff like that, it's only possible if this was a contained environment. And now they're trying to say that they're trying to slowly introduce the fact that we haven't gone beyond the atmosphere, and now they're trying to say that, oh yes, like the moon is within the atmosphere, but then like the sun wouldn't be, right? And so that's still, again, like there's issues with that lie, when the sun and the moon are like they appear to be roughly the same distance away from us in different areas when you do the like the Pythagoras, and so many different people, Gleason and Mercator, and like not even just with his flat map, but like, there's probably better. Oh yeah, well, I guess the yin and yang symbol represents like the rotation. As a classic example, like the sine wave, we living in sin. It's like the sine. I was talking about like the contained environment though, so I really need to stop getting off track. Oh yes, like no rockets, no spacecrafts have gone like past it, and you'll even see too like where it looks like they're trying to hit something, and then there's like it looks like to be like waves almost in the sky, but that show that and then and it goes back down. And so if people take a look at like even like what they're calling the live streams, you'll see that once they get to a certain distance, where they're supposed to be like outside of the atmosphere or whatever, we get like this like a video game, fake like CGI like rocket, that's it's so obvious, I guess. And again, every single country is doing this. And so like the more we go on uncensored browsers, excuse me, and get on VPNs and connect in different countries, you can see like what they're getting more and do the comparisons. Or you can look in my description box at the links that I give and start there. And again, any video that you get from me, you're gonna get at least 5 that are gonna try to go against it, but it's not good evidence, right? Like these are all just people that are trying to like use complicated terminology and algorithms and things like that, but that are not able to be proven like practically on the ground, and people again are repeatedly, like even with like the curvatures, like showing that we're going well, like we're seeing well beyond distances that would be possible on Earth if it was 25,000 kilometers in diameter, and so like it doesn't matter what calculation you use or how it's you got to look at this stuff. And so if you're going to use your own calculation, mine was it's 8 inches per mile squared. Then and if you want to use your own, then calculate what the distance is that you would be able to see like at certain levels, and then you've got to apply that, right? So like see like how it works out, right? So don't just do the calculations, but also go out and see it if it makes sense or not, and then a lot more things will progress, I think. But because yeah, like even like I shared this, but the Khmer Rouge incident, this was in Cambodia, and this is where almost 2 million people, there was a genocide against them by communist people parties, and so like where we have people within Canada that are trying to become like clearly more extreme left, socialist, communist, and then more authoritarian as well, like on the chart, on the graph, the XY chart, right, where you have the left and right extremes, and then you have like the authoritarian government dictatorship, totalitarian authoritative complete control, and then you have like at the lower end complete anarchy, right, where there's like zero control, right, and you want to have a balance of these things, and as soon as you get like to the extremes, like doesn't matter what side it is on the spectrum, when it's extreme, it causes a lot of harm, right? But throughout histories, repeatedly we've shown that like in recorded history, that even in World War II, right, when there was mass atrocities, these were all committed in communist socialist countries like Hungary and Austria, and you can and I've shared this as well, like for many years saying this, but and people turning a blind eye in these places, and so we should not be looking at these as any kind of like a an example of something that we want in Canada, right? Especially when it's not sustainable, and even in Ottawa, because of how like our country is set up and our climate in the region we are, based on our latitude and longitude on this flat plane, multidimensional reality. But that is also a simulation that is impacted by electromagnetism. So we've got like electric city, and then dielectricity and magnetism, and these are very heavily influenced by the sun and the moon and the planets, and and the constellations. And even again with like the stationary Earth, like Polaris is fixed. It has never moved, right? And the constellations move in perfect symmetry, or a pattern around, right, where it's predictable every single year, right, that you will see outside, like the sun and the moon and the constellations will be in the exact same place. And then obviously like the Analema rotation that is done as well, it shows. There's so much information, so I'm getting a lot of messages because it's my birthday, and it's still in the morning, but they're popping up. I could talk so much on flat Earth too, but like even how even like the slightest bit of wind in like we can feel when we're outside, but like you put like a tree or a fence, then it blocks it, right? So that's so the example about like airplanes, it doesn't work because it's a contained environment when you're in the sky and it's moving, right? And but the Earth is not. The ether and what's above us is certainly moving. But even with the water being so still and level, we're always seeking level and stillness, and varying containers, and needing to have containers in order to like hold water in it. Like that would only be possible if we were still. It would only be possible if we were still. And if you want to look at like water on the exterior of a tennis ball or a ball, like there, you cannot, that there's no way the water can be held on the exterior of a ball, and but like by any means, right? Where it can hold like all these like massive amounts of water, but it can't hold like 125 pounds soaking wet Dawn. Like, I don't know. Come on. Oh yeah, also a fun fact, there was like 7 like eclipses or whatever you want to call it during 1982, and I was born on or around a full moon, but it was a super moon, and it was the 7th one of the year. And again, this like is something that's very, very rare. It happens like, again, like not very often at all, and it was just very interesting. Oh yeah, and then even when you look at eclipses, like I was saying before too, if you look at what they have online, what they're showing on their websites, or if you take a look yourself when there is one, if you track this stuff, and people like me do, then you'll see that it, like the moon is not going past the sun and blocking it, and vice versa, and then going past it, right? And sometimes we're catching it where the moon is in another area of the world in the sky, and anyway, and so take a look at these things, and you would clearly visibly see like the moon like approaching, right, and then going away at like eventually, because you could say like, oh, but the sun like blocks yes, but like there's gonna be, again, I reiterate, like there's gonna be a certain period of time where it's going to be like visible again, right? Like, and we even see it in the sky too, where like the sun and the moon have been close together, and then the reflection is from like a completely opposite end of the sky, and not paying attention that it's impossible that it would be like the sun or the Earth that's causing that eclipse, or what do you want to call it, or the partial covering of the moon, right? And also before, like I've said, like when the crescent is on the left hand side, then or the eastern side, then it's a waxing crescent, and then you get a new moon, and then when you start the waning crescent, and then when you get the new moon, it starts getting bigger again, or you're getting like less of it is being blocked, and then it's on the right hand side or on the western side, whatever you want to call it, and until you get to the full moon, and then it repeats from there, and depending on your like what calendar you're following, there are people that believe that there are 13 like lunar eclipses during the year, 13 full moons, and 20 divided by 360 is 28, but I guess there may have been something that happened a while ago, I don't know, and now the sun does lap the moon every anywhere between 28 or 29 point, whatever you want to call it, days, depending on what calendar system you're looking at. Let me see here. Yeah, so we really need to pay attention to extremes on any side, because there's a lot of proof just within recent history where communism extreme socialism tied with authoritative regimes, complete control, it's been like the most amount of casualties, right? So that's why people like me are very nervous about this stuff within Canada, right? And like these rolling power outages are going to be strictly because of corporations and people that are exploiting our resources, and the government exploiting our resources, with like even within the like the perimeter of Ottawa, and it's not sustainable, and shredding millions of trees completely have like left us very vulnerable to the like extreme austere weather conditions. And in Ottawa, like we were already like fighting for first place for the coldest city in the world with Moscow, right? Like for like coldest like recorded temperatures in history, right? And so why continue to keep doing this when we need to have our trees in place and growing for longer periods of time, like they used to. And there's proof all over the world, even with the Devil's Tower and so many other like Arizona Grand Canyon, where like these are clearly quarries or places that were like heavily mined, and trees cut down, where you can even see that they were either shredded and or completely cut flat, right? Like plateaus, plateau, play on words. Anyway, and even within Canada in a lot of areas too. And then where you see some mountains where it looks like more like a pyramid or like an anthill or whatever you want to call it. This proves to be that these are like man-made in design, and where like we've like blasted through areas before and then just like piled them into these areas. So again, there's some mountains that we're calling, or towers that we're calling those things, but they're older ancient trees and or older, covering up older like infrastructure, like cave caving systems where people used to live, and or like more advanced structures that were built out of the mountains or like the size of mountains, and then blasted through and try to be covered over or melted over. And we can see that all over the world too. Like I think there's even places where the bricks all melted, and or only certain places like where there's fire damage, and it's all very obvious when you're looking at it. And also too with volcanoes, where people are suggesting that there's natural and man-made volcanoes and eruptions, and where if you even look at compost, like it can cause fires too, based on like just like how like everything like mixes together, like these chemicals, and then how they're introduced in that environment. And so this is why too, when we're putting in like so many different like wastes, from cities into like landfills and dump sites like all over the world. But like in Ottawa, like we're building up huge landfills and dump sites, and this is where we're putting our garbage, right? And so also as well, it's not sustainable. Like the more people within an area, how we have it set up, there is going to be again more waste, and it's been way more at an accelerated rate. And there's so many different things when mixed together. Like people do throw out batteries, people do like throw out detergents and chemical products and prescription medications and alcohol, like so many different things that when like mixed together, like this is also what has caused like eruptions of these things and wiped out like mass areas. And this is also what I believe has happened within these areas as well, like even what we're calling Mont Royal in Montreal, I believe could have been like something like that also happening. So like what they're going to be calling climate change, like these are the same people, like again, that are exploiting us, like for like to get more people in one little area, like little rats in a cage, right? And exploit us, right, to get us to like either pay like overinflated prices for rent and gas and electricity and oil and food and all these things within these like areas. But they're also like again increasing the electrical outflow. It's not sustainable. We're going to be inadvertently shutting down grids because of like again too much electrical current, like in areas that are not sustainable, and with more wind that are gonna that's gonna be like blowing these like damaging these towers, these ground towers. They're also going to be blasting through and drilling through more like fiber optic cables, and like I've said before, like it's ground towers and fiber optic cables is what causes electricity, or what creates electricity. And I've trained all over Canada and the world, and we've been in austere areas, remote locations, and we've had people come in, like we have like full out like companies and or squadrons that like administration companies, whatever, that are actually and service support companies, battalions even, that come out again, and they lay out like the lines, and they like even tape them over and cover them over so that they're protected and not driven or walked over or cut, you know, and generators and things like that. And so and what are running, like it's what's running underwater and running like underground. And we have to pay attention to these things because we can't be just like cutting into them, especially when we're doing this in the winter in Canada, right? Oh, yeah, because a lot of the things that we're going to be calling again like climate change is literally because of what construction, what I'm calling destruction companies are doing, and realty companies, and how the city planning is going, and we're not factoring in a lot of big things, and oh yeah, crepuscular rays. Okay, so like that's another thing too, that where how like we're feeling the heat on this from the sun clearly, like when it's like in certain areas of the sky. Like, how could that be possible when it's like 93 million miles away, right? And so it wouldn't, and then like with even like just like a slight like $3 million like a 3 million mile distance, there's to be like such a significant impact to the world. Again, like how the flat Earth model is shown with like the sun and the moon, like revolving on these rings, or what do you want to call it, like invisible rings or nodes, like whatever. It would show that like if you have like a lamp or like a light above your table, if there was someone sitting at the center of the table, in the like directly underneath, there'd be no shadow cast, but like depending on where people were like around the table, there would be different shadows cast. And that proves also that the sun is not only localized and closer, but that it's like that it's above us and not being like reflected at us from like such a distance, but like from like this being the Earth, but like being reflected from like so far away, being like reflect like from here, like but 93 million miles away. No. And that's why also like during certain periods of time, there's areas of the world that when you look at the ones that have like constant daylight, it makes sense on like the Mercator's flat Earth map model, and then the areas that again like that don't have sunlight, like for the periods of time, you'll see like again like how it makes sense more on this type of these designs that so many different people throughout history have shown that we're much more advanced than we are right now, and it's proven in the infrastructure and the architects are like the castles and the palaces and the domes, like all these like huge like designs that predate, you know, like anything that we've built in the last like even a couple thousand years. And even again how like the sunlight's going in, like depending on where you are in the world, would be like shining upwards, like at your ceiling, and it never does. It's always shining downwards. That again proves the fact that it's more localized above and being reflected into the area that like we're seeing it. And when we're seeing the sun and moon, they are two-dimensional where we're seeing them. But obviously, again, on this ring, and that's where the planets are as well. They're on like different rings, and they have their own orbital path, and the constellations do have their own paths as well. And it's very predictable, and it's been predictable for thousands and thousands of years. And this would only be possible if we were not moving, because it's impossible to be moving at like 1,000 miles per hour, 1,000 kilometers per hour, whatever it is, and then also like orbiting the sun at like 66 like thousand like miles per hour, like also like spinning and then like revolving like to get around the sun. Like there's just no way, right, that this is possible. And anything that I've seen for the planets close up, they look like sacred geometric patterns, like that are vibrating, that are light waves, or what do you want to call it, and each one has its own like different pattern, right? Like even snowflakes have their own sacred geometric pattern and shape, and they're beautiful. And even our own cells that like we have, like our water cells too, like when we're not like chemical laden and eating garbage and not filtering our water and not fasting during certain periods, or trying to like improve our health and meditate and blah blah blah, then it's really hard to ascend and access our higher levels of consciousness and awareness. And again, I'm going on these tangents, so I don't even know where I was going. Oh yeah, but like there's geoengineering going on, right? And this is also something that I've been saying for years, but I'm sharing proof of this on my social media. So I really do hope that people start following me on Instagram and Twitter and LinkedIn and Rumble, because like on YouTube, like I keep on getting my accounts deleted, and so it's just it is what it is. So for now, I'm just gonna like keep on those platforms and try to give as much information as possible on this stuff. But geoengineering has been going on, contrails and chemtrails, right? And so this is also like when you introduce chemicals into the environment that is making like other like particles go to it, then this is also causes like not only cloud coverage, but it also causes it also causes snow, and it can cause rain during certain periods as well. But if you're blocking the sun and the moon, you're also blocking our ability to get those rays and those downloads, or whatever you're gonna call it, that healing, and or see for yourself that the eclipses are not, caused by the sun and the moon like lapping each other, or whatever you want to call it, like we're saying. But again, there is a period of time that the sun does lap, like go like around the moon. But there is another object, at least one. They're calling it like the black sun. There's even songs on it, and some cultures say that there's like at least two, and they're calling it Rahu and Ketu. And yeah, it depends on the but sine cosine. There's this right here, this wave, and this is also what is a good description of like syncretism, or the more esoteric theosophical science part of this plane. Because I also say that this is like not only a flat plane with a dome above, but that this is like a simulation, right? That's again, like it's heavily impacted by electricity, dielectricity, and magnetism. But also like the sine cosine wave also explains this, and shows that even like the seasons and astrology, astronomy is like the oldest science, and should be used, right? And this is why people like, there's also a psyops on like separating astronomy and astrology from like religion and from what we're calling science now, but because like it connects everything together. So when you look at like the start of the like the sine wave, my drawings are so bad. But that's March, so that's the spring equinox. And then you have June 21st, like it's at the top end of the wave, and that's the summer solstice. And then you've got September 21st, like it's another mid, but going down, like falling, like that's September 21st. And then you've got, so like the September, like our fall equinox. And then you've got December 21st, which is the winter solstice, which is when the wave is at the lowest, right? So like the fall, and then goes back up again. And so depending on where you are born, on like this wheel or chart, it's also broken down into 12 houses, and there was 12 disciples, right? 12 apostles, or what you want to call it as well. And depending on the culture or religion, there's 12 things. And it's and you can very clearly see even in the Last Supper, the reason why it was on during the time it was because the son, Jesus, the Son of God, had to die, and even the sun is like even behind his head, because after the winter solstice, like the sun, like it's when it's like the longest winter, like the darkest, like it's like the darkest days, or whatever you want to call it, and then the sun stops for 3 days, and then rises again, and then it goes from there. And then this is also the start of the winter period and the colder period. And I lost my train of thought, but oh yeah, and then it starts back up again. So and then you've got like on either side of Jesus, you've got like the different clear like zodiac signs that are being represented by the disciples. And and again, I link this to Instantis Bonacci. He's really good at explaining this stuff as well, and he has like good models on this stuff. But because I live alone and my dogs are useless at taking recordings and videos and editing, like I can't, I just need to sell my house and get to a place where I won't be distracted during most of the days. Because again, like even with the heritage site that they took over, they've really exposed like thousands of the houses in this area, and there's been a lot of wind damage that's already been caused because of this, right? And it hasn't even been a year since they've shuttered all the trees in this area. But the drilling and the blasting, it's also again like a recipe for disaster, and they're going to be putting in more electrical outlets and stuff like that, and cables, and it's just going to completely disrupt this entire area. And I think it's very selfish and greedy. And I think that again, the heritage site, like there should be no building being done on it, and I think it should be stopped immediately. And because again, it's going to be impacting this whole area. It already is, and it's not even set up yet, right? Oh my goodness. Oh yeah, like blocking the sun and the moon, like it's not, it's like doesn't allow us to look at it because there are healing rays that are emitted from them that again that could possibly give us like anyways healing properties and yeah. I think on that note, I will leave it at that. Did I talk about Havana syndrome? Oh yeah, okay, so like even with Havana syndrome, this was also something that's been ongoing for the last few decades, something to pay attention to with EMPs, electrical magnetic pulses. But the reason why they're calling it Havana syndrome is because there were people that were working in the embassies, working for government in Havana, Cuba, who were impacted by like electrical magnetic pulses, right, that completely messed up their brains and stuff like that. And I 100% know, and I've shared this as well, where these are things that are put on mass populations, right? And something that can cause like really like a lot of cognitive issues and or make people elicit emotional responses in people based on things that that, right, that are very dangerous. And so like if you have people protesting peacefully, for example, and then you're throwing out EMPs on them, then it's a recipe for disaster. And again, there's no reason for it. You're just causing like a lot of harm. And I don't know. And so like that's not the not the answer. And listening to what people are saying, possibly the answer again, because like then you would know the reality of the world, and know that the military pharmaceutical industrial complex, they're taking over Canada and our resources, and it's not sustainable, and it's going to be us that are going to pay the price for it, and then things just rebuilt over the top, and us completely wiped away from history. And I know this is already happening for a fact, because I do know people that do construction all over Canada and in the US, and I've talked to people and they're even saying it, right? They're blasting through bones and old ruins and through sites, or they're not, or they're blasting through like buildings that should be preserved, and shredding trees that they should not be shredding, and it is what it is. But I think on that note, I hope that everyone subscribes and shares so that this information can get out there, because people do end up going missing, even people that I know personally, over sharing this stuff. And so I don't want it to be for naught, because I have sacrificed a lot to make my life like more about like sharing this information. And yeah, it would just be nice if people at least shared it. So anyways, on that note, I hope that everyone has a wonderful day.